So we made it to double digits. Can't even speak. What are your thoughts on that?
What do you mean?
It's episode 10.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Good job paying attention. You're a novice?
I've never been good counting.
You did go to public school. Alright. So, it's your boy, Shun, joined by the man who is faster than a speeding turtle, more powerful than a Tonka truck, and can leap small mounds in a single bound. Steve OG.
Hi.
Join us as we open the Extreme Wrestling Archive ECW Double Tables.
Yeah, here we go for the 100th time. Hand grenade pins in every line. Throw them up and let something shine. Going out of my fucking mind. Filthy mouth, no excuse. Find a new place to hang this noose. String me up from atop these roofs. Knot it tight so I won't get loose. Truth is you can stop and stare. Run myself out and no one cares. Dug the trench out, lay down there with a shovel up out of reach somewhere. Yeah, someone pour it in. Make it a dirt dance floor again. Say your prayers and stop it out when they bring that chorus in. I bleed it out, digging deeper just to throw it away. I bleed it out, digging deeper just to throw it away. I bleed it out, digging deeper just to throw it away. Just to throw it away, just to throw it away. I bleed it out.
Last time we left, what was going on? We rounded out 1994, correct?
94 ended.
Yeah. So, I think on the way out, your world champion was Shane Douglas. And by the end of 1994, he was still Shane Douglas. And coming into this pay-per-view, it is still Shane Douglas. The tag team champs. We actually did see that finally switch hands. Went from a Public Enemy to... Do you remember? Cactus Jack, Mikey Whipwreck.
That's right.
Back to the Public Enemy. They are currently the tag team champions. And then the ECW television champion, remember, changed hands, I believe, even in the same day. It went from like Mikey to Jason to Too Cold to Dean Malenko. And your current champion is Dean Malenko. Now we are in full-blown Extreme Championship Wrestling. They're the world heavyweight titles now. They're not affiliated with the NWA. They broke off after that title tournament last time. So this took place February 4th, 1995.
February.
Yeah. So this was at the ECW arena. We had, 1,000 people in attendance?
That's four dig.
Yeah. And basically, I think they only had 1 or 2 TV tapings prior to this, so there really wasn't much going on at the beginning of the year. It all stemmed from like Holiday Hell at the end of the last episode.
At the end of the year.
Show opens, and wouldn't you know it, what song kicks on first that we should know by heart by now? It's What a Man by Salt and Peppa.
And Spinderella.
That happens right after Joey Styles introduces us to the event. So that brings out Jason. Comes out, he's kind of psyched about the the electricity in the air. Said he has to admit even he is impressed by that, but then he calls Joey Styles pathetic and introduces his Pitbulls. Joey, he let us know during that the Pitbulls had actually caused the demise of the Bad Breed. So that was one big angle that happened at the beginning, which we'll go into in a little bit. But the Pitbulls broke up Axel Rotten and Ian Rotten. If you remember, he was wrestler number 45, named after a Sex Pistol.
Right.
And Ian Rotten was just Ian Rotten. So then Jason, he introduces another Jason, and that is Jason the Terrible from the Wing Federation. He had a Jason mask on. Remember that? And then he looked terrible. I don't think he spoke. And then he comes all the way from Japan, which is the Wing Federation, which stands for Wrestling in the New Generation. But there was also a star in there between the W and the I, which I don't know what that stands for, why there's a star there. But they're like FMW, kind of where ECW gets a lot of their bloodshed from, because the Wing Federation was pretty hardcore, like gross hardcore. So that's where like a lot of those hardcore wrestlers spent most of their time when they went to Japan. It was FMW and Wing. Then we see a quick promo package for the Pitbulls and them breaking up the Bad Breed. Just a little bit. We're starting to get a little more towards the modern era of promo packages and actually letting us know what's going on with the storyline instead of us guessing or me having to give a 10-minute recap before each match to tell you what's going on. So first up, guess what we have? A tag match.
Of course. At the beginning.
The Young Dragons and Hack Myers versus the Pitbulls and Jason the Terrible, not Jason the Manager. So Jason the Terrible is actually, his name's Carl Moffat. Spent a lot of time up in Calgary with like the Hearts and all them, Stampede Wrestling. But apparently he was actually very, very successful up there as a heel. I think in his own character and then as the Jason character. But apparently he liked to juice too much, as in bleed. So, fuck it. He said, I'm going over to Japan, where that shit's not only smiled upon, but it's encouraged.
Where there are no rules.
So that's how he ended up in the Wing Federation as the Jason character.
Gotcha.
I also think there was something he did with the Gilbert brothers, where like they were pissed at him because he was unprofessional, whatever. But then the Gilbert brothers like came out because they were like Freddy Krueger and the Boogeyman out there. They had masks on as well, talking about how unprofessional this guy is. I don't know. So they actually came out.
There was just like a sale at the Halloween store.
Exactly. So they actually came out demasked, like broke kayfabe, like shot on all the wrestlers, and left the company in Japan somewhere. It was actually quite a big scandal, but the Gilbert brothers, I guess, do that. I think I mentioned that all the way back on the Ultra Clash or SummerSlam. So we're off already. So Pitbulls, they start off destroying the Young Dragons. Pitbull, he actually unmasks one of the Young Dragons, so he's just standing there with his mask off. Now, from what I heard originally, the Young Dragons, and I think they were prior to this night, was Mikey Whipwreck and Paul Lauria, who we'll meet later. But they were just, I mean, Mikey, we went over it before, he kind of was like just a ring boy.
Wasn't he the guy who played House?
Mikey Whipwreck?
Paul Lauria?
What is his name? Is it Paul? Oh. Greg. No, Greg's his name on the show.
No, in real life, though.
Hugh.
Hugh Laurie.
Yeah. This guy is nowhere near. I bet Hugh Laurie could probably take Paul Lauria, but we're just basically small jobbers that teams could destroy and throw around. But I don't know who they were on this one, because if you look at the demask guy, it's definitely not Mikey Whipwreck, and it's definitely not Paul Lauria, who we'll meet in a little bit. So they tag in Hack, who begins to run wild on the Pitbulls. Do get a nice double team suplex on Hack. Hack, he hits some of his Pasha shots with the fans sing along.
What?
Where the fans go, Sha, when he hits them.
Oh, okay.
Remember rock, paper, scissors, Hack?
You threw a P in there and you had me.
Well, how do you say it? The Sha? Sha. You just say, I thought they said Pasha. It's just Sha. I don't know.
Say it one more time.
Shaw. Okay. All right. Jason, he works over Hack on the outside. And then Jason the Terrible is tagged in. Hits some big shots on Hack. And then I think he hits some headbutts, which actually busts Hack open pretty good. So he's a little bloody at the beginning.
Blooded.
Hack, he does get some shots in, only to be thwarted by Pitbull 1. The Pitbulls, they cause...
Thwarted is a good word.
You like that?
I do.
The Pitbulls chase off the Young Dragons, so it's basically just Hack versus the three of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they hit a triple team splash onto Hack for 3 and the victory.
Boo-bam.
And then, holy shit, we get an instant replay.
You mean they rewound?
Yeah.
And then replayed?
And yeah, but
in real time.
Almost in real time. So it's not like you had to go back a week later. But then again, actually, these were all done on tape delay anyway.
Right.
So.
But still, impressive.
It's still. Side note, by the way, this match was heavily promoted on the internet in 1995.
That's nuts.
There was hundreds of people there from the internet.
They found it on Like Us?
Yeah. Or what was it? Web crawler.
Web crawler.
So they say somewhere upwards of 100 people from the internet and around the country came out to witness this. So we cut back to Jason, the manager, and he puts his men over. As you can see, Hack just beating up the young dragons in the background, which is kind of funny. He basically just, puts his men over. Says the fans haven't paid enough to see any more of Jason the Terrible, so he just sends Jason off to the back. Hack, he then comes around to the front and starts to attack Jason and the Pitbulls with a nice steel dragon in hand. So, it's capped off with Hack hitting some move from the top rope. I don't know what it was, but it was some move.
And move.
On Jason, the manager, and it hurt, it looked like. So then, for some reason, Angel comes out, the virgin princess, in her wedding outfit. Or was that a wedding dress?
Attire.
Yes. She slaps Hack in the face, but he ends up punching her. Which gets a huge pop, actually. He then bends her over his knee and smacks her ass. Like, even lifts her dress up and everything, but it was away from the hard camera, so you couldn't see what was going on.
Oh, the 90s.
Yeah. But, instead of getting pissed, Angel gets up and then kisses him, lays a big smooch on him twice, but then Hack just proceeds to pile drive her.
Yikes.
And not in a good way. And that ends...
People gotta pay extra for that.
Yeah. That's on the after hours. So that ends that first match there. Basically a squash match. Not very interesting, the match itself. And if they were trying to showcase this Jason, the terrible guy, they really didn't, because he really didn't do much. And with the shit he used to do in the Wing Federation and what have you, like he was cutting people with fucking, what are those things called that you cut wheat with? A scythe? A scythe, maybe? No, a scythe is those trident thingies that Raphael used. A scythe, I think.
Yeah.
And maybe like a ninja claw, shit like that. But out here, he may have used a chair once. So, match, not that great, but the after-match shenanigans were very enjoyable. Although I don't know what the point of Angel coming out is. Maybe she just had nothing better to do.
Filler. Time filler.
Time filler. All right.
They had to change the batteries in the handy cam.
Any thoughts from you on that match in specifics?
I always hate the first match.
And it's always a tag match.
Which is why I always hate it.
Or it's some variation or stems from some kind of tag match.
Right.
All right. So, up next we got Stevie Richards coming out to Come Out and Play by Offspring. Remember how that goes?
The song?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Gotta keep them separated.
Yep.
He comes out with this guy named Raven. So who is this Raven? Let me tell you.
Is she so Raven?
It's a dude, eh?
Is it Edgar Allan Poe?
It stems from Edgar Allan Poe.
Ray Lewis.
He's not the Raven. He's a Raven. All right, I got a pretty lengthy dissertation about where this Raven character comes from. You ready? You ready? Okay.
You gotta keep them separated. Full of kings and queens. They'll blind your eyes and steal your dreams. Kurt Cobain didn't make it and left an entire generation of tortured souls behind. Tommy Dreamer, take heed. Quote the Raven, nevermore.
Strapping in.
So who is this Raven?
Strapping on.
All right. So we got Scott Levy, who graduated from wrestling school in 1988 and basically wrestled all over the Western Hemisphere. He'd been in Puerto Rico, Canada, back in the States, the Pacific Northwest, Spent some time in Memphis with a CWA, etc., where he got like the Scotty the Body gimmick.
Was he walking in
Where
Memphis?
I forget he was. Yeah,
Okay.
he probably walked in Memphis. He had the Scotty the Body gimmick, which he did with Missy Hyatt, he was like her boy toy, if you can believe that or not. He did wrestle under his real name as well, and he even made a one-time appearance in the WWF, losing to Coco Beware. Remember him?
No.
The Birdman?
Got nothing.
He was basically a jobber's jobber. So, Raven jobbed him. He eventually landed in WCW circa 1992 as a surfer dude from Florida named Scotty Flamingo. And he even won the
Flamingos are funny birds.
They're pretty rampant. Everyone has those in Florida, right? In front of their trailers.
I think they ride them to work.
Is a flamingo like close to an ostrich?
Not even a little bit.
No. Is an ostrich a bird?
Yeah.
What's a flamingo?
A bird.
Oh, okay. They're not of the same family?
No.
Okay.
One's pink.
It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, it does.
There's... Okay.
Name two animals that are pink that are related. That's what I thought.
So, surfer dude from Florida named Scotty Flamingo, and he even won the light heavyweight title from Brian Pillman, who appeared last episode.
Mm-hmm.
Levy, he ended up in the Diamond Mine, which was a stable consisting of himself, Diamond Dallas Page, Scott Hall as the Diamond Stud, and Kevin Nash as Vinny Vegas. They were feuding with Johnny B. Bad at the time, and eventually disagreements with the booker, Bill Watts, at the time, led Levy to leave and join the USWA, followed by the WWF, where he came in as a rich, preppy, spoiled kid named Johnny Polo.
Like a polo shirt.
Correct. And he had a croquet mallet and...
Daddy's credit card.
Yeah, and khaki shorts and boat shoes and all that shit. He mostly did managerial work, managing Atom Bomb originally, followed by the Quebecers, and then also some commentary, which he would host, I think, like All American Wrestling, and most notably, the WWF Radio, or Radio WWF, which actually, I think, was way too far ahead of its time, because it was actually good, because it was actually called by Jim Ross and Johnny Polo, and they would actually call moves and say moves, and now it's...
Now we would call it a podcast.
Correct. Podcast WWF. Despite being an incredible persona on the mic, Vince really wanted Levy to give up on the wrestling and even give up on managing to host and produce like backstage. So, only being in the business about 6 years at that point, Levy was not willing to do this. By this time, Levy had started to pack on some mass. I think because he was light heavyweight, and at this point he had come up to about 235. He was trading in his polo shirt, khaki shorts, and croquet mallet for leather jacket, jean shorts, and combat boots.
Hello.
Channeling his inner darkness he was feeling from the business, and heavily influenced from Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, also Swayze's character in Point Break.
Okay.
Levy created a persona to portray his deep-seated feelings for the state of the current wrestling business. But where would he unleash this gimmick? The WWF and the WCW were still embracing the chicken shit heel, you know, where basically they had the manager or the like honky tonk man always ran away from everyone or persona, which Levy did not want. He also felt like his character would be misused in those companies, which it almost certainly would have. So he contacted Smoky Mountain Wrestling's Jim Cornette, who was very interested and said he would bring him in next month. After being told this about 3 or 4 months in a row, that he was going to be coming in next month, Levy said, fuck it, and figured out this would never happen. So he packed his bags, moved from Stamford, Connecticut, which is where the WWF is located, almost in New York, and moved to Philly, which apparently was a hub of independent wrestling at the time. You had the tri-state area over there. A lot of things going on. Levy, he happened to catch some ECW on TV, which he had always heard referred to as garbage wrestling, but but he was very impressed with what he saw and its content. So
We fell in love.
Yeah. So he contacted Heyman, Paul Heyman that is, who initially wasn't impressed nor wanted the character, but thanks to some cajoling by his old buddy DDP, apparently Paul Heyman owed DDP a favor. I don't know for what though. He agreed to bring in Raven.
I just like that they use the word cajole.
Yeah, that's a good word. Heyman originally only wanted Raven in the short term, as he thought the character would just be a watered-down version of Johnny Polo, like a goth version of Johnny Polo. So after staying up until 9 a.m., like one Sunday late in October doing coke all night, Diamond Dallas Page had called Raven, who was pretty strung out at the time, told him to get in touch with Heyman, and the Raven character was brought into ECW. Heyman, at this point, he was having trouble getting Dreamer over, Tommy Dreamer, with the fans, and thought maybe a feud with this Raven character was just the spark he needed. Let us follow how that pans out. So, in December, this previous year, 1994, Stevie Richards was going through an identity crisis, which he actually did his whole career. He would imitate other wrestlers. He would come out as Stevie the Body, Stevie Polo, Stevie Flamingo, basically every character that...
Yeah, you could throw something on Stevie.
Well, those were all Scott Levy or Raven's characters previously. And he was on a lengthy 2-match win streak before... until he was bested by Tommy Dreamer. So in early January, Stevie said that he would introduce us to the real Johnny Polo. And on January 10th, Raven makes his first televised appearance.
Hello.
So Dreamer has just returned from Japan, and Stevie wants to avenge his loss from the previous month. And that is what sets up this match. Any questions? Did you follow it?
You explained that very well. From soup to nuts.
From soup to nuts? Mm-hmm. I'm not familiar with that.
Soup to nuts means like everything. Included. Like the kitchen sink.
Yeah.
Batteries included.
Oh.
With the kitchen sink.
Yes.
From soup to nuts.
Okay. We'll have to incorporate that more.
The soup or the nuts?
Both.
You want to incorporate soup to nuts from soup to nuts?
Yeah.
Okay.
All of it. So, Stevie Richards with Raven versus Tommy Dreamer. Dreamer comes out to even flow. He's got some new threads, a new shirt, new tights, lost some weight. It's 1995, new year, new Tommy Dreamer.
Feeling good.
So, Straw Hat Guy, he was sporting a non-straw hat. So, it looked like a cow or something. Like, it had black and white spots on it, and I thought maybe I saw some udders.
Maybe it's cow skin.
Could be.
Or something.
All right. Couple of lockups leads to a cheap shot by Stevie Richards and sends them to the outside.
It's not very nice.
A cheap shot?
Yeah.
No. It actually floored Dreamer pretty well. Richards, he hits a vicious chair shot. Vicious.
Like as Cher would say?
A vicious. Why can't I say it? Vicious. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Chair shot. And works over Dreamer nicely on the outside. He then steals his shirt off his back and then sends him back into the ring wearing his shirt. Dreamer reverses it with a stiff clothesline, reverses the momentum.
The Big Mo.
Correct.
The Big Mo.
Then Dreamer, he hits a nice swinging net breaker using his shirt as leverage. So, like, grabs him by the neck with his shirt and does a neck breaker.
Fashionable and functional.
Correct. Dreamer, he then redons his shirt, I guess I should say. More brawling, chair shots on the outside. We finally get back into the ring, and Tommy Dreamer has a frying pan, and he proceeds to scramble Richard's eggs, a.k.a. his balls, with a shot to the balls.
More of an O'Reilly kind of guy.
You don't like scrambling. So, thumb in the eye gets Richards the advantage, but it's only to be reversed into a lovely DDT by Dreamer. This gets him a pretty big pop by the crowd. So, fans...
One of those?
Yeah, they're starting to get around to Dreamer. side suplex and a superfly splash from Dreamer. But he gives up on the 2 as Raven presents himself on the ring apron. Doesn't do anything. Like, Dreamer backs off the 2. Raven gets up there, just kind of stares at him, and then gets back down. So it was kind of interesting. Just Dreamer, he goes up to the top again, but gets crotched on the top rope by Stevie Richards. He regains the upper hand and hits a cross body, but only gets a 2. Hangman's neckbreaker by Dreamer only gets a 2. And then this is when Raven enters the ring, holds Dreamer for what seems like a minute, like a very long time, before Richards actually winds up and hits the Stevie kick. Like, for as long as Raven was holding Dreamer, you would have figured he would have ducked out of the way, because it was well over 30 seconds. But no, hits it flush on the chin. So they get to their feet, and they both somehow were like, seemed like they were gonna go for a move, but then both of them stopped, and they stood there for about 5 seconds. So they basically just both fucked up. So they stood there and kind of like, what are you gonna do? I don't know. What am I gonna do? What are you gonna do? Kind of worked out the next spot. But Stevie just went for another Stevie kick. Tommy ducked and hit a double axe handle to Stevie's already scrambled eggs to get the 1, 2, 3.
Trace.
So Dreamer wins with a double axe handle to the groin. This wasn't a no DQ match from what
It's a lot of testicle smashing
lately.
Like a lot of it.
Yeah.
A good an overabundance of testicle smashing.
Yeah. So and apparently that's a finishing maneuver now. So all right. So Raven, he kind of gets in the ring but maintains his stoicism, as he just almost like the Undertaker or some shit back then, where he would just kind of walk towards Dreamer but showed no emotion, being held back by Stevie Richards and Jim Molinos. And then as he gets out, leaves the ring, so there's a big chant of pussy by the fans. Pretty much this encompasses the one thing that Scott Levy did not want, and that was a chicken shit heel. So basically he didn't fight Dreamer. He got out of the ring, left, and was called a pussy.
Quoth the Raven, nevermore.
Exactly. So the one thing he was trying to avoid, he was able to do on his very first night.
Success.
Dreamer, he then gets on the mic, tells Raven to go back to the WWF, and tells them to kiss their collective asses.
Seems like that would take a long time.
Yeah.
You'd have to like make an appointment. It'd be weird if if they weren't all in the same place.
Would it be like a deli where you had to take a number and shit?
Probably something similar. Maybe like a single file line. I don't know.
There would definitely have to be. There would have to be somebody like curating.
Yeah, depending on the size, facilitating some sort of depending on the size of the room. I think
like a party planner. Yeah. What if it was the ECW locker room?
Yeah, I don't think there'd be enough room in there.
All right, so then ECW ECW chants ensue afterwards.
Yeah,
forget EC dub. Although I think they say W. It didn't evolve to the dub, and love. So personally, I thought this was an awesome match.
Because you enjoy testicle smashing.
Yeah. Fun brawling. No rest holds. Fans were into it. Tommy looked awesome. Stevie bumped like a boss. And we get to see Raven. And we're introduced to Raven and the start of something magical, I feel like.
Majestic, if you will.
Huh. What are your thoughts?
I am anti-frying pan being used for violence.
Really?
Yeah.
I'll get used to that.
I don't know. I feel its place is in the kitchen. Making delicious food.
Yeah. What about, like crutches?
You can't make food with crutches.
I'm not saying make food. What are your thoughts on that as an outside foreign object?
I mean, I don't think you can hurt somebody with a crutch.
What about a chain?
Chain, you're
okay with that?
Yeah.
Frying pans are no.
Yeah, it's not
no kind of kitchen utensils.
Yeah.
So what about a cheese grater?
No.
Pizza clod? Pizza slicer?
No.
Okay. Basically anything that has to do anything with food.
You're gonna have to wash them later if you want to have a delicious meal.
Yeah. Damn it! I wanted pizza that I used this cutter on the Sandman's face.
Exactly.
Yeah. And now I have to treat it I have to autoclave it because
Put in the dishwasher.
there's
Wait
DNA
for
all over
it.
it. Surprising, What a Man kicks on again. Get used to this. Dude, this is like, we've heard this song 6 times, like in the past 3 shows. That's impressive.
But they've had to pay out the ass for that.
So, yeah, What a Man kicks on as Jason leads the giant Paul Lauria out to the ring. Now, who the hell is this guy? We had mentioned him earlier. Well, I mentioned him. You acknowledged him. Confused him with another actor.
With House.
MD.
I confused him with House.
So, Paul Lauria, much like Mikey Whipwreck, started setting up the rings, and they would wrestle each other, and that's what Paul Heyman saw Mikey Whipwreck doing that and was impressed. I guess he must not have been as impressed with this kid, because it took him almost a year and a half. They did wrestle together, like I said earlier, as the Young Dragons, although not on this card. Because, like I said, they took his mask off, and you can definitely tell it was neither one of them. Before getting his big break on the January 3rd episode of Hardcore TV, he was introduced as a big fan of Mikey's, only to attack him and introduce his manager, Jason. The manager, not the terrible. Labeled as the Giant, Paul Lauria is actually smaller, shorter, and tiny, like thinner than Mikey Whipwreck, who Mikey Whipwreck was 5'9", 187 pounds.
But he had a giant personality.
Is that what?
Yeah, it wasn't physical size. It was
metaphoric.
Emotional size.
Spiritual. Paul Lauria, like I said, he was smaller than Mikey Whipwreck, but unlike Mikey, he never got over with the fans, and he only lasted like a couple months. So, before disappearing back into obscurity, and then somewhere around 2008, Mikey said he was bussing tables at a restaurant somewhere. So, I don't know. Who knows where he's at these days? Maybe bussing tables still.
Yeah, like at an Applebee's or something.
Yeah. So Loser kicks on as Mikey comes out. Mikey, he had an incredible 1994, if you remember, winning both the TV title and tag titles with Cactus Jack. Lauria, he jumps Mikey in the aisle, and the two brawl around the ring. There's a funny spot as Mikey keeps throwing him over the guardrail, and the fans keep throwing him back in because they don't want him in the stand. Lauria, he misses a baseball slide kick under the ropes and crotches himself on the bottom rope.
Of course he does.
Which we need. I mean, we only had, 2 ball shots last time. We need more.
Need more to stick with this match.
They both have like a nice little wrestling exchange, which like actual wrestling, reversal of moves, counter holds, all that good stuff, which is refreshing to see occasionally. Lauria, he finally takes over Mikey with a nice arm drag. He slows it down into an arm bar. Mikey, he then reverses the momentum with a low blow and hits a crossbody but only gets a 2 count. Mikey, he hits some heavy moves on the Giant, hits a sunset flip, and exposes his buttocks.
That's not good.
Exposes Paul Lauria's buttocks. He then hits an atomic drop on Lauria into Jason, which causes them to bump heads. Lauria comes back around is into a reverse atomic drop with his ass still hanging out by Mikey. But then Mikey, he hits a sloppy slingshot head scissors, barely gets it over.
Why was it sloppy?
Because he didn't get his springboard wasn't
springy.
Yeah. And then his head scissor wasn't really scissored. And Lauria just kind of fell out the ring, like on his own. There was no momentum or anything. So it was a little sloppy. Mikey, he then misses a plancha to the outside. Mikey, he takes a hard face-first bump on the floor. So it was actually really nasty. Gets worked over by Jason on the outside, and then Jason hits a face-first, like, suplex plant onto Mikey through the timekeeper's table, just like in Hardcore Heaven 94. So we have no idea how much time is left or how much time there's going to be or how to keep track of time.
I would use a watch or a clock.
Yeah, not a table.
No.
Okay.
That's what I would use.
if you were using a watch or a clock, would you need to be at a table?
No.
In order to
I can be anywhere that I want.
Apparently, in the wrestling business, you have to be at a table for it to be regulation time. So Jason hits that face first suplex, and then he nonchalantly returns to like camera position 1 on the hard camera, smiling. It's pretty funny, actually. Lauria, he hits a vicious chair shot on
vicious?
I can't say it. On his face, like on his chin with the spokes, like the bottom of the chair, busts his mouth wide open. That really hurt.
That is vicious.
It was very vicious. It looked like he legit was bleeding out of the mouth. Back on the inside, Mikey, he reverses things with a modified chicken wing hold. Like he had both his arms pulled back. It was pretty inventive. But
Drum or flat?
Drum. Then turns it into like a butterfly suplex, which is actually pretty nice. Slow blow, obviously, by Lauria to change the tides. But Mikey is able to catch Lauria on the top rope and crotch him. More ball violence. He then hits a...
Ball violence should be the name of a metal band.
Yeah. Mikey then hits a super bulldog from the top. Bulldog from all the way up top. However, Jason pulls Mikey off, preventing him getting the 3. So Mikey, he confronts Jason on the outside, floors him with a right hand, gets back inside, and reverses a nice little bridge pin maneuver by Lauria into a backslide, which gets him the 3 and a very large pop from the crowd. Yes. So, Mikey victorious over the giant Paul Lauria. I love this
giant
match.
In quotation marks.
Correct. Not physically. I love this match as Mikey and Paul Lauria bump for each other. Mikey's underdog gimmick still over. He looked strong, taking that vicious chair shot to the mouth. And after losing his title to Jason, last summer, he's pretty much been humiliated by him numerous times. Now it gets a matter of revenge and a victory, a clean victory, and he gets to cold cock Jason. So I enjoyed it. Your thoughts?
Has anybody ever warm cocked?
So next up, we hear "Fight for Your Right to Party." You hear that as Axel Rotten.
I've never heard that song.
You've never heard that song? Fight for your right to party? Why? What do you want me to say? You're fishing for me to say something. So we hear the kick it part of the Beastie Boys, and Axel Rotten basically just bum rushes the ring, and his brother, Ian, with what looks like a chain. So, wait, what the fuck? I thought these guys were a tag team.
Right.
What's going on here?
More importantly, are they running to the ring because someone is trying to take away their right to party?
I don't know.
Someone infringing on their rights.
Maybe
party.
Paul Heyman put a no smoking sign back there. So they're gonna do what any normal person would do and have a blood feud in a
Thou
wrestling
shalt
ring.
not party.
This upsets me. I'm gonna have a wrestling match.
The 11th commandment was thou shalt not party.
The Beastie Boys amended that to the 10 Commandments. All right, so what's going on here? I thought these two were a tag team. They were an established tag team. Remember Hardcore Heaven? They fought in that base brawl game.
Maybe they had a fight
with bats.
Maybe they had an argument.
Well, why don't we go through it and see?
Okay.
So at Hardcore Heaven, I just told you they took on the Public Enemy in a base brawl match, in a losing effort, however. They continued to feud with the Public Enemy and the Pitbulls over the course of the rest of 1994. So, by the end of the year, By the end of the year, Sabu, Taz were feuding for the.
That's their couple name.
Yeah, Taboo. It should be. That's pretty sweet. The Public Enemy and Taz and Sabu were feuding over the tag titles, and the Pitbulls were feuding with the Bad Breed, which culminated in a loser must split up match shown on the January 17th episode of Hardcore TV. So this had just happened at the first TV taping of the year. So this just happened. Ian, he blamed Axel for the loss and attacked him post-match, which basically leads to this match. So this is a fresh, hot feud. This, I believe, is our first match.
Like a hot dump or a hot lunch.
Hot Carl. I don't know what a hot Carl is, but I know it's a sexual move. And I assume it has poop or something in it involved in it.
Why do you assume that?
Yeah, I don't know. It just sounds like a poop maneuver. Are you Googling it?
Oh, yeah. Continue.
Okay. We start off.
I'll break some news when I have something to do.
We start off with brawling on the outside. Axel hitting Ian with a stop sign many, many times in the head, followed by many chair shots to the head. They fight up the bleachers at the ringside, and we catch a glimpse of Ian's bloody head. Steve.
A hot Carl is sexual slang referring to one of several purported acts involving feces.
Yes! I knew it.
It variously means an act of defecating on one's sexual partner, defecating on someone who is asleep, or defecating on someone's face while covered in plastic wrap.
Well, he'd still be easy cleanup. I don't get the Carl part.
It's Carl with a K.
Yeah, I know. I did know that.
Like Karl Marx.
So we get a glimpse of Ian's bloody head. The fans, they love this shit. You can see him cheering. Ian's turn to get in some offense. They exchange shots of chairs, shots of frying pans, which you do not like. They make their way back into the ring as we get a close-up of a very, very bloody Ian. This is like the biggest blade job to date. The Timekeeper's hammer makes an appearance. Ian gets some punches and a drop kick in, which is pretty impressive because he's a rather large, rotund dude. Ian, he begs off as Axel goes to work on him with a beer can. Ian, he trips up Axel and pins him with both his feet on the ropes to get the victory. Post-match, the two of them continue to brawl, going all the way back to the locker room. So you can see a continuation of
and
this.
guess who's coming into play?
Who?
The Steel Dragons.
There was many, the armada of Steel Dragons. I absolutely love this shit. Bloodbath. Good setup for a blood feud. Like I said, it just started, so this is the first one. Two brothers, former partners, blaming each other for losing. Who better to have in a blood feud? Ian, he bled like a pig. Makes me happy, because I'm a sick, twisted individual that loves bloodshed.
Yeah, you should probably get some professional or amateur help.
Therapy. Alright, I could have done without the shitty, cheap victory. Although I guess that is a continuation for the feud, but why not have it end in like a no contest or they both just brawl to the back? Yeah, I mean, it does kind of continue the feud on, but it would have been, I don't know, for some reason I feel like it would have been better if there was no pinfall victory. Because that way they can just increase the violence, which they do. Ian with the victory over brother Axel. What are your thoughts, Steve OG?
This is violent. It was bloody. And that was different.
That's very true.
It's very bloody.
Although we did see Hack Myers busted open a little bit. It was nowhere near
that.
This. Alright, next up, we have Al Snow, the Snowman, versus Chris Benoit. So, Chris Benoit, he made his appearance all the way back at the NWA title tournament, which we went over last time. Mm-hmm. And he has somewhat formed a alliance with Dean Malenko and Shane Douglas, which we'll go into a little bit later. And he famously broke Sabu's neck at this previous November to remember. I forgot. November to remember.
You forgot the November that you were supposed to remember?
Correct.
You should have wrote it down.
Alright. Al Snow, he debuted in ECW on the January 17th episode of Hardcore TV, which was like 2 weeks ago. So he's fresh in ECW. However, Al Snow began wrestling all the way back in the early 80s in various independent promotions. He even jobbed a couple times in the 1993, in the WWF as Steve Moore, but never really got that big break he needed to get into the business. He did train UFC legend Dan Severn in the early 90s. And it was only when he toured Japan and wrestled Sabu that Sabu told him he should give ECW a try. So here we are. ECW.
We're here.
Snow. This match has 0 build, as it is 2 wrestlers wrestling.
2 wrestlers wrestling. One ref a reffing.
One emo ref. Alright, so good solid wrestling. Off the
4 ring posts.
3 floppy ropes. Aren't the ropes floppy? Well, there's 3 ropes. 3 ring ropes.
They're not very taut.
No, they aren't. Alright, so we got some good solid wrestling. Gets a standing ovation from the fans. Vicious chops.
Nice job.
By Chris Benoit in the corner. So fast paced, and these two work so well together that I actually kind of just put the notebook down and kind of watched it for the first 5 to 7 minutes.
They were in perfect harmony, like Boys to Men.
Yeah. So Snow, he eventually hits a springboard dropkick, which gets nice applause from the crowd. After about 5-7 minutes of technical wrestling, Benoit hits a textbook German suplex. Only gets him a 2. A stiff hooking clothesline, which Benoit continuing to work over the neck from his now adopted crippler gimmick. So he works over the neck, which is pretty weak on humans, I hear. Necks and knees. Hits a belly to back. Still only gets a 2. Benoit just continues to work over Snow's neck with vicious kicks, punches, stomps to the back of the neck. Disses the fans and then hits a diving headbutt from the top rope.
Oh.
Which only gets a 2.
Talk about diving head first.
Yeah. Pretty nasty powerbomb. Still only gets a 2. Al Snow coming out looking pretty strong after this. Although he doesn't look, he's not in good shape. Like he is now. If you see him 2019, he's jacked to fuck now. He's humongous. He was lanky in this one. So, congrats, Al Snow. Congrats to you. I know you're listening. Benoit's, his moves are so perfectly executed. And then I was thinking I probably shouldn't use Benoit and executed in the same sentence.
Oh.
Was that too soon?
Yeah.
Okay.
You should apologize.
Sorry.
To me.
To you? I was going to apologize to Benoit. Another German only gets a 2. Snow, he reverses a full Nelson into the very awesome Snowplex, which I love. It's like a wheelbarrow into a suplex. Badass. Can't capitalize on it as Benoit is the first one up. Snow, he then reverses a suplex into a reverse German. That's not correct. Into just, a release German. So, all impact, no bridge. On the back of your donk. Is that your head?
I think your donk is your pooper.
I think it is too. On the back of your noggin.
There you go.
Okay. Fisherman suplex by Snow. It's a bit sloppy though. But only gets a 2 count. That's the perfect plex for you that don't know. I will give it was okay. It was a little sloppy, but this is we're getting into 12, 13 minutes into this very high-paced match, hard-hitting
So they're
match.
getting a little tired.
Correct.
There is some energy that is being combusted.
Yes.
Utilized.
And expended. Benoit reverses into another high-impact German, and then finally Benoit takes the victory with a dragon suplex, which is just a full Nelson into a suplex pin combo.
Did you say he released into a German?
He reversed.
Okay.
Do I need to say?
No, it would be very funny if you said he released into a German.
That's dirty.
I know.
Okay. Yeah. That's
a whole different visual.
Benoit gets the victory after a dragon suplex. Benoit, he continues to work over Snow, hitting a powerbomb post-match, which leads Snow to be carried out by ECW Damage Control. And this got me thinking. It does say Damage Control on the back of the thing. So you don't have to call 911. So 911 is referring to the wrestler. If you want help, you have to call Damage Control. So they got that worked out already. I just don't know if the fans were aware.
What if it's an internal
disaster? What if Damage Control was having issues?
No, what if it's an internal injury?
You call damage control.
You still call?
Yeah.
There's internal damage?
Yeah. And external.
Okay. I don't know if it's specialized.
In external damage only?
Yeah.
Alright, so Benoit continuing to get over his crippler gimmick. This match was entertaining as hell and was the perfect match to put on after the Rotten Brothers bloodbath.
Fast, technical,
correct.
Enjoyable.
Yeah, you go from like hard-hitting, brawling, bleeding shenanigans
to science
to, yes, well-executed, still hard-hitting,
physics,
but physical. For the first 5 to 7 minutes, like I said, I put down my pen, just watched, enjoyed. Both men executing textbook moves, and it's a nice palate cleanse after the bloodbath we had previous. Words cannot do it justice. I think the best pure wrestling match we've seen so far in ECW. Would you agree?
I would agree.
I can't even think of anything that kind of came close to it. Like, I mean, that they always say that 1 hour match at Three-Way Dance. I mean, it was good. It was amazingly held my attention for an hour. But I mean, Funk wasn't there for the first 15 minutes. Then Sabu was gone for 15 minutes, so. But this was just pure straight wrestling. Rarely left the ring. Catch as catch can.
It's two good wrestlers, good wrestling.
And the fact that it was like 1995 too, before we started focusing in on this crisp like wrestling, at least here in the States. I mean, you had like it was all about the big men in power in the big leagues. So I feel like this match may have been a little ahead of its time, or maybe it's just a sign of things to come, which we will see here shortly that it actually is a sign of things to come. Anything else from you on Al Snow versus Chris Benoit?
No, sir.
Next up,
championship.
We do have a championship match. Shane Douglas, the champion, versus Tully Blanchard. All right, Tully Blanchard, I'm sure most people know who he is. He was a mainstay of like the NWA territory system in the late 70s, and 80s. He was part of the very successful Four Horsemen. It was him, Flair, Anderson, and it was Ole Anderson for the most part, but then like Barry Windham and a bunch of different people were in there. So, but he was one of the three that were always in there.
He was one of the 3 Four Horsemen?
Yeah. In the beginning. So then
before there was a fourth one, there was
well,
3.
They were the Four Horsemen, but there was 3, and then the last one was just kind of like around like a interchangeable. He was part of the Four Horsemen before jumping ship to WWF with Arn Anderson as the Brain Busters. They did catch a championship there in the WWF before being fired late in 1989 due to testing positive for cocaine. So his career actually never rebounded after that. Like the WWF kind of like sabotaged him because they knew him and Arn were leaving, going back to the WCW. So fuck it, they tested him early for. I think they were telling him they were testing him for steroids or whatever. They tested him for cocaine. Went ahead and told WCW. WCW never rehired him. They did offer him they offered him to come back and like they lowballed the shit out of him, like $500 per appearance come back, which he said no to. But he did make one more appearance at Slamboree 1994, wrestling Terry Funk.
Terrell.
But he mostly spent his time in the Indies and never really recaptured the glory that he had with the Four Horsemen. So here he is. So the champ is out first, Boo, holding up his 3 fingers here. So his version of the Four Horsemen. We find out that this is called the Triple Threat. It's consisting of him, Malenko, and Benoit, which I kind of mentioned earlier. This is Shane Douglas's version of the Four Horsemen. Like, he bitches and rants about Ric Flair constantly or whatever, but he copies everything he does. So.
Well, no, he only had 3.
Oh, okay.
3 is different than 4.
Okay.
It's 1 less.
That's correct. Right.
Or 4 is more than 1. It's more
one
than 3.
More. Okay.
It's either 3 is either less than 4 or 4 is more than 3.
Those are both true.
Either way, different. 3 does not equal 4.
Don't take his side.
3 does not equal 4.
Okay. Blanchard, he comes out to no music and tries to shake hands with Shane Douglas. But this just leads to a cheap shot by Blanchard.
It's not very respectful.
He then, yeah, I know. He's a like revered veteran too. He's pulling garbage like this. He runs ragged on Douglas though, with punches and kicks and more punches and even more punches.
But like a maniac.
He does hit a nice stuff pile driver. He sticks it. Only gets a 2 due to Douglas being able to get his foot on the rope. Bust holds early, which I would expect from a 70s, 80s wrestler. Eventually, they go to the outside. Suplex by Douglas onto the timekeeper's table. So that table has been abused.
Get some action.
Yeah. Douglas and Blanchard, they exchange some rights. Kind of inside, outside, just punching each other. Not much going on. Back inside for some more right hands by Blanchard. Blanchard, he dumps Douglas to the outside and continues to work him over. But then Douglas turns a suplex from the outside in. Like Blanchard's trying to suplex him in. He reverses it into a pin and gets the 3 count and retains his title. So this is your world championship match. What are your thoughts?
World championship.
Yeah. Oh, it is a world championship now.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What did you think?
Not much to say about that.
No?
Yeah.
For me, Douglas, he actually defended his title. But again, against somebody who most likely won't be with the company for longer than a couple months or whatever. But these two masters of wrestling, or go on about their wrestling, they threw a shitload of right hands. It was ridiculous.
It was like a boxing match.
Yeah. But it was they didn't even utilize the left. It was all right. It was nice to see Tully taking it to the outside, getting a little extreme, using the guardrails and what have you. It didn't live up to the previous match at all. But bonus, there was no Mr. Hughes at ringside with Douglas. So 4 out of 5 stars.
On Yelp.
On that. Any other thoughts, questions, queries on that match?
No, I want to move on to the next one.
All right, Sandman versus Cactus Jack and the Texas Death Match.
Texas Death Match,
right.
Which is different than like a Oklahoma Death Match.
Yeah, can you explain a Texas Death Match to me?
Where you're in Texas.
They're in Philadelphia,
and you die. I'm pretty sure.
I'll explain it here in a minute. We'll see how close you are. All right, so Cactus Jack spent the latter part of 1994 feuding with Sabu in those pretty violent hardcore matches. Now that Sabu has moved on to Taz with Taz in the tag division, who else is going to try and take this hardcore throne from Cactus Jack?
Enter Sandman.
Couldn't be.
See what I did there?
Dude, that's like many puns in one. This basically began last week on January 31st episode of Hardcore TV. Why not? They're both hardcore wrestlers. Let's make it a Texas Death Match. So, a Texas Death Match is you do have to pin somebody for a 3 count, but they also have to stay down for 10 count after that. So it's basically a last man standing match.
In Texas.
But it doesn't have to be in Texas. It was originated in Texas. Actually, Hulk Hogan had a couple of these matches versus Harley Race in the 80s.
In Texas.
Probably. Although WWF at that point was mostly in the northeastern region. This was
Texas?
This is well before they actually traveled from state to state to state.
Like Texas.
Like in Texas was world-class championship wrestling with the Texas Tornado. That was his territory.
I mean, everything's bigger there.
In Texas. Even the matches.
The matches are longer, so
they're deadlier.
Yeah.
So, Sandman comes out first, but he's immediately attacked from behind by Cactus. Cactus, he hits a fucking devastating chair shot, which was real nasty, and a crutch shot. So, found a crutch somewhere. Hit him with it. Pretty sure you can still see Sandman holding a cigarette. Kudos to him, because that's pretty difficult.
It's probably his last one.
Jack with many, many headshots to the Sandman, and we get our first cover for 3. But Sandman gets up at 5. So, Cactus Jack then puts the chair on Sandman, and then leg drops it onto him and gets a 3 count. But the Sandman is up again by 6. Sandman, he's actually hung out on the ropes like his feet catch him on the ropes, so his ass is like in between the ropes, and Cactus just comes by and drop kicks him like off the ropes onto the floor. It was a pretty funny spot. So this leads them to the outside. Jack, he then gets busy with your favorite instrument, a frying pan.
Bastards.
We'll get into this in the recap about why we should agree with you on not using frying pans. Jack, he hits the steel a couple times as they get back into the ring, but that doesn't last long as Jack dumps Sandman back outside, misses a leg drop, and then a dazed Sandman finally gains the upper hand with a suplex back into the ring. So if you look at the Sandman, like, he is vacant. Like, it says vacant.
It's not all there.
No, it says vacant in his eyes. They're dollar signs.
The restaurant's open, but we're not serving food.
Correct. All there is pasta fagioli. So, Sandman, he hits a bunch of knees and then works over Cactus's knee. So we get a little bit of storyline integrated into this, because Cactus had missed the leg drop on the outside and hurt his knee. So Sandman started ramming it into a chair, working it over, kicking it, what have you. Woman, woman, she gets in a cane shot on Cactus Jack's knee for good measure. So she's getting a little bit of action in there. Cactus gains the advantage and attempts a pile driver on the chair, but it's reversed into a back body drop. Cactus, he eventually hits the double arm DDT onto the chair, but the Sandman kicks out at 2. So we'll get into why he kept kicking out of it. Like, I don't think he was supposed to be kicking out of these, but the Sandman was fucked up. So the Sandman, he then regains the advantage and impressively maneuvers himself with Cactus Jack in pile drive position over the chair and pile drives him on it. So he actually had to take like 4 steps over to get lined up with the chair, which was actually, and he had Cactus up already. So it was actually very impressive, considering the state in which the Sandman was in. Doesn't go for the pin, however, so he DDTs Cactus on the chair, and this does get a 3 count. But Jack starts stirring at 4, and the Sandman just continues to attack. So he didn't even kind of let the count drag in. So I guess at this point, Mick Foley is starting to get kind of pissed at the Sandman.
Little upset.
Yeah.
Well, frustrated.
Yeah, so Jack, he gets a hold of the cane, unleashes on the Sandman, taking them to the outside. Cactus, he hits a diving chair drop, like go for an elbow, but you have a chair in your hand instead, on the Sandman, which was fucking awesome, but that only gets a 2 count as the Sandman kicks out. Nasty chair shot and an elbow drop does get a 3, but the Sandman, he gets up again. DDT by Cactus on the floor does get a 3, but the Sandman gets up. Another DDT by Cactus gets another 3 count, and the Sandman again gets up. So you could just see Cactus so frustrated at this point. So he hits a 3rd DDT, gets a 3rd 3, and this time the Sandman stayed down for the 10, and Cactus Jack gets the victory. So it was pretty violent. For me, this match was the shit. It started out with a nice bang bang, pun intended. It did kind of fizzle out in the middle there. It did get kind of tough to watch. Slowed down greatly, but by the end, the Sandman looked superhuman kicking out of all these things. Side note though, you watch Sandman shoot video, or I think even Mick Foley goes into this. You see Mick, he does get kind of pissed at him towards the end, but if you go back and look, he grabbed the frying pan out of the crowd, and it was not a gimmick frying pan, it was a legitimate frying pan, and he fucking broke it over the Sandman's head.
Oh shit.
So the Sandman was legitimately concussed for the whole match. I guess he doesn't really recognize or recollect the ending or what happened.
Oh my god.
And that's why woman was getting mad at him. She's like, "Stay the fuck down!"
You were hitting the real frying pan.
And he just kept. That's why he kept getting up and kicking out, because instinctively, I don't know what was going on. So yeah, he legitimately concussed him. The Sandman had to take, I think, 2 to 4 weeks off after this. They were both that's why Cactus was starting it. They thought they were the Sandman was working on fucking pulling a prank on him. Or
really, he just didn't know what world he was on.
So he legitimately got his brain scrambled.
Oh,
by a frying pan. So like you said, stay away from the frying pans.
Just so you know.
So next up is the main event.
It's the main reason people are there.
It's the event that is the main reason that people are there.
Mm-hmm.
Or wait, it's
The
the whole event is, or the whole thing is an event, right?
Yeah. It's a lead up to the main event.
Okay. And then this is
There are sub-events, tertiary events. This is the
secondary.
This is the primary event. Yes.
All right, so we got the Public Enemy, who are the current champions, versus Sabu and Taz with Paulie Dangerously.
Did you call them taboo?
Taboo, correct. We should call him Taboo. So this match is a double tables match. Do you understand this match?
There are 2 tables in the match.
That's it? Okay, that is incorrect. Because there is way more than 2 tables on the match. But the loser must go through, each member must go through a table in order to be eliminated.
And since there are 2 of them, that would be 2 tables.
Yeah, but there's 4 of them. At least.
But to win, you have to put 2 people through 1 table.
But not the same table. At least 1 table.
2 separate people in 2 separate tables.
Alright. So, champs out first. Boo. And then Sabu and Taz come out. And it's explained that both members must go through a table to lose. So when Bob Ortiz has to get on the fucking mic and explain the rules and all that stuff, it kind of loses its luster. So, I don't know, it's just kind of funny listening to him. Because he even does it later in the match where he has to explain, like, why these people are eliminated and so on as it. So it's kind of funny. We'll get into that, though, as we go. So, Taz and Sabu, basically, like I said earlier, they've been feuding with the Public Enemy over the last part of the year. I don't really know. I'll have to kind of scour through. I kind of don't know why they teamed up. Paulie just put them together. They did have a match together, right? At Hardcore Heaven, was that?
I think so.
Where it was like a 40-second match? Or was that with
I think so, yeah,
Jimmy Snuka? One of those. Heatwave or Hardcore Heaven, they teamed up, but then they really didn't get back together until later in the fall. So the Pitbulls feuding with... Well, they were feuding with the Bad Breed up until like just recently. So Sabu and Taz, they're at the top of the queue for the tag team titles. So we have them against the Public Enemy. They also met at last month's Holiday Hell 1994 in a no DQ match with the Public Enemy won by pinfall. So increasing the violence as we increase the feud here. Taz, he hits a pretty quick powerbomb on Rocco Rock. Looked pretty nasty as Sabu and Grunge are fighting on the outside. Sabu, he hits one of those seated planchas under Grunge. You know where Grunge is sitting.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He runs through the ropes, nails him. Lots of brawling into the crowd. Finally, they do make it back into the ring, and Grunge hits Sabu with a frying pan that is still in the package. So they definitely got a new one because it still had the price tag and everything on it. Belly to belly Tazplex and Air Sabu in succession. I can't say that one either. Succession. Vicious. Judicial.
Suspicious.
Sabu, he then hits an Arabian facebuster. Yeah, onto Johnny Grunge, who is very bloody at this point. We then get 2 tables into the ring simultaneously. Taz, he rams Rock into the table of the leg, like it's upside down, and you know how the tables stick up. Mm-hmm. Like he rammed his throat into it. Dude, that looked pretty vile. Grunge is set up, on a table, and Sabu misses a leg drop, but the table itself doesn't break, like the wood part, the legs break. So not a break official. Taz suplexes Sabu onto Rock, basically using Sabu as like a weapon. Interesting. Rock, he ends up going through a table. Like Taz, like kind of just chucks him through a table in the corner. But apparently this doesn't count and nobody mentions it. But he does break the table. Although it's leaned up against the turnbuckle, nobody counts it as going through a table. Huh. So much like the Mikey Whipwreck Jason finish in Hardcore Heaven, where Mikey actually pinned Jason, was counted by the ref, but never acknowledged or never spoke of again. That's what's happening here. So Taz and Grunge on the other side, as Sabu just threw Rock through the table. They simultaneously go through a table, and then this is where Bob Ortiz gets on the mic and explains at length how both of them went through the table and now they're eliminated, blah, blah, blah. And it takes about 35 seconds of him on the microphone explaining this. But I guess it looked like Taz was maybe trying to hit a suplex on Grunge, but they both just ended up going through. So Rock, he then hits a somersault plancha through the tables, but at this point, Taz had distracted the referee, Jim Molyneux. So Jim Molyneux didn't see or couldn't even hear the very loud crashing of the table right behind him and somebody going through it. So that one is null and void.
So now we have 2 tables that are not counted.
Correct. 3 tables have been broken total. Only 1 is counted so far. Sabu, he finally, as Taz sets up Rock on the outside on a table, Sabu leg drops him from the top rope in the ring to the floor through a table, which wins them the match and the tag team titles.
And a table.
Did they win a table?
I don't know. She showed you a table.
So post-match, Sabu, him and 911 are setting up a table in the ring. They got Rocco on the table. They set up a table on top of the turnbuckles with a chair. Mm-hmm. And then he's about, I don't know, do some kind of maneuver through it.
And all hell breaks loose.
Yes. Chris Benoit comes out, attacks Sabu from behind, power bombs Sabu from the table that's on top of the turnbuckles through Rocco Rock, who's on a table, to the mat.
It's like a bad s'more.
So many bodies and woods and more bodies and mat. Ultimately, a lot of confusion. The fact that it had to be explained multiple times during the fight didn't really make sense. These were not gimmick tables as well.
These were amenities from the Fireman's Auxiliary.
Yeah, exactly. These were meant to hold up many bingo.
They were going to use this for bingo later.
Yeah, it was nice big bumps, high spots. Always nice to see action.
Good gimmick, good violence, good billing in this match.
Good billing. Also, new champs. Always nice to see, since fucking Douglas never defends his title. Why not make the tag titles bigger? This will happen much later, and we'll see it.
And you know how I love when a tag match is where it's supposed to be at the end.
Yeah. At least this one's for the titles, too.
Right.
But the world title, you'll see this later in like the later 90s, where Douglas is out for fucking knows how long, many months. And Taz is like, fuck it, and creates his own title. Because like, he's not going to defend it. He's injured, but he won't give it up either. He's basically like fucking Hulk Hogan, never wanting to lose the title. After this, we actually get a little Benoit promo, which actually wasn't that bad, to be honest with you. I thought it was going to be shit. Because I thought it was going to be
He's not a talker.
No, he's not. But
he's a murderer.
He did very good, correct. He's violent. But it wasn't that bad. It wasn't terrific, you know. I wasn't like The Rock or Stone Cold or something, but it was nowhere near Dean Malenko. And it's somebody on them working their magic. They had a close up of his face and then his hands, but the hands were turned down to like an opacity of 10%, so they were just barely there and like going like this the whole time while he's giving this 2-minute interview. So it was kind of funny, but it was good content in it. And then he was talking about how they're gonna. It's like, congratulations on winning the title. This is a segue to him and Malenko challenging for the tag titles now. So basically, we don't have tag teams. We just have 2 dudes put together.
Friends.
That are what do I want to say? Headlining the tag team division. So what are your thoughts on just this match individually?
I like this match. Like I said, I like the fact that it was creative in terms of
at the time,
the gimmick at the time. And I think it was just a good use of talent.
Yeah. And then, what was your thought on the card on your whole?
Better than a lot of them. Even though they started with a tag match.
Yeah. I had to say this was leaps and bounds above anything we've seen at all.
And you got a little bit of everything, too.
Yeah, exactly. You got the hardcore, bloody shit, like the garbage brawling, which is always a nice relief.
And you got some technical stuff,
right after
too.
that, the very technical sound, Benoit versus Al Snow, 15-minute match. And then you get the people that get the crowd into it, like the Public Enemy, despite them not being 100% like terrific or whatever, they do get the crowd involved. Like I said, this was like heavily distributed on the internet. Like ECW was, I think, too progressive at the time for their own good, because they were way ahead of their I guess the curve as like even with booking and being hardcore, the gimmicks they were running, the storylines they were producing, being on the internet, involving high def television or high def programming, you know, like even Vince and Ted Turner weren't up this high yet, although they just didn't have the money to match. Imagine Paul Heyman with $1 billion. Yeah, exactly. Right. Wonder where would we be today? So we
on
did.
the moon.
Yeah, we probably would be on
Wrestling
the moon.
on the moon.
This one's over planets, not overseas.
Right.
On another planet.
Right.
What was I going to say? Oh, we had some nice debuts. What do we have? Raven, the giant Paul Lauria.
In quotation marks.
Anyone else that was new? I mean, Tully Blanchard, but he's not.
But he's a
new.
name.
Exactly. That's like that incorporates like the old style where you have like your current champ versus some big name from out of state to draw names in. But Tully Blanchard isn't fucking drawing the crowds at ECW. Right. They've already established with like Sabu.
We've seen his
Taz.
arc.
Yeah. So I don't think we had any departures since last time. Nobody big left. We'll actually be back here in 3 weeks.
Trace.
Yeah, where we have Return of the Funker coming back in.
I wonder who
somebody's
that is.
Returning.
I wonder who that is.
So like and follow us on Facebook. You can watch us on Vimeo or YouTube. Listen on iTunes or SoundCloud. And then if you want to kind of help defray the costs, you can make a little donation on our Patreon page, which is Extreme Wrestling Archive. So join us next time as we open the Extreme Wrestling Archive.
You gotta keep them separated. Separated. Hey! The man you're disrespecting me. Take him out. You gotta keep them separated. Hey! Don't pay no mind. We're under 18 and won't be doing any time. Hey! Come out and play. Separated. Hey! Man, you're talking back to me. Take him out. You gotta keep them separated. Hey! Don't pay no mind. You're under 18, you won't be doing any time. Hey! Come out and play. Separated.